My true ambition is to lead the most interesting life I possibly can. So I looked up who is the most interesting person alive. After doing some reading, one man stood out as a true adventurer, a humanitarian, a diplomat, someone with intense physical discipline, mental discipline, and a true sense of scientific intellect, the combination of which accumulated in a unique, interesting life. So it is without further ado and great honor that I would like to present the man named Fridtjof Nansen. Let's start off with some of the things he accomplished in his life. He cross-country skied Greenland in 1888. He proposed new theories in neurology, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize for helping displaced victims of war. He was just an all-around badass. Nansen grew up in Norway. In the short summers, the main activities were fishing and swimming, and the winter was devoted to skiing. Nansen began skiing at the age of 2. I think this is an important lesson that we see right off the bat. He was willing to take risks. At 10, he attempted a ski jump, renowned in his area. He ends up buried waist deep in the snow. Everyone's laughing at him, but still he took the risk. The household he grew up in held a simple, disciplined routine with plain sustenance, instilling habits of diligence and self-sufficiency. Studies took second place to sports or expeditions into the forest, where he would live like Robin Crusoe for weeks at a time. A brief side note, this book that Nansen references has maybe the longest and one of the most interesting, informative titles that I've ever seen. It goes, The Life and Strange Surprising Adventures of Robin Crusoe of York Mariner, who lived 8 and 20 years all alone in an uninhabited island on the coast of America near the mouth of the great river of Onuku, having been cast ashore by shipwreck, wherein all the men perished but himself, with an account of how he was at last strangely delivered by pirates, written by himself. And today we're competing for a 3-second attention span. Man, old books are just the best. But I just think this is so emblematic of his overall attitude to life. He looks up and reads about an adventurer who got stranded on a deserted island rescued by pirates. Like, this is the exact life he goes on to live. One of the things I've been thinking about recently is how so much of what a person will become is instilled in them and evident in them when they are a child. Just quickly, I should mention that at 18, he broke the world record for 1 mile skating, and the following year won the National Cross-Country Skiing Championship, a feat that he would go on to repeat 11 times more. He studied zoology at university, claiming that he chose the subject because he thought it offered him a chance of working in the open air. He accepted a post as curator at the zoology department of the city museum, and he was to spend the next 6 years of his life there, including a 6-month sabbatical tour of Europe, working and studying with leading figures such as the discoverer of the leprosy bacteria and the museum's director, who turned the museum from a small collection into a center of scientific research and education. Surround yourself with great people. In early 1882, at the behest of the university, he joined the Norwegian sealing vessel Viking as its sole scientific passenger to collect marine species during a voyage to Arctic waters off eastern Greenland. The ship remained at sea for 5 months. Aboard, Nansen documented ocean currents drifting from eastern Siberia towards Greenland, observed ice formations and marine life, including seals and polar bears, and for the first time glimpsed the vast inland ice cap of Greenland. We see immediately that everything in his life, in a weird way, stacked on top of each other. You're going to see how vast and multifaceted his life is. But really, if you actually spend time analyzing it like I have, everything builds on top of each other. He's using the things he's learned along the way to inform his next step. Back at university, he proposed that the nervous system comprises discrete individual nerve cells rather than a continuous network, an early formulation of the neuron doctrine that challenged existing theories. These insights positioned Nansen as Norway's first brain researcher and a foundational figure in neuroscience. You can probably hear the excitement in my voice because this guy's just so interesting, but next Nansen took on what seems like a truly impossible feat. Him and a small team, assisted with lots of dogs, crossed the entirety of Greenland on skis. I don't know if you ever looked at a map, but Greenland is massive. Also remind you that they did this in 1888. That was like 150 years ago. They didn't have any technology, where they were in the middle of Greenland with dogs and some sleds, and this guy did this for no reason. He was just a beast. Strategically, Nansen insisted on traveling east to west. This eliminated any option for retreat, a true burn the boats commitment that he later deemed essential to the mission's success. This is something I really want to highlight because, as I talked about at the beginning, Founders by David Senra always, comes back to similar points. And I wonder if this is going to be a similar point as we continue doing more of these biographies, is this burn the boats mentality. He uses it, David Senra, to describe Larry Ellison. You must commit to what you are doing. There can be no backup. You have to put both feet on the path you're walking. If there's another way to success, I'll be certain to be on the lookout for that. But mind you, the crossing of the Greenland subcontinent did not go smoothly. Progress was hampered by nighttime temperatures below 40 degrees Celsius, constant blizzards, heavy snowfall, treacherous terrains, whatever snow blindness is, hunger and dehydration. But they did eventually reach the far side of Greenland. The ship they traveled on eventually returned home. Crowds of between 30 and 40,000 thronged the streets. The interest and enthusiasm generated by the expedition's achievement led directly to the formation that year of the Norwegian Geographic Society. Do you see how individual action can inspire nations? Motivation is such a strong force, and people tend to discount it because discipline is now all the rage. But motivation, getting people out of bed, getting dollars moved into the right bank accounts to be used to form societies that go on to have legitimate change on society. One person can do this. You could do this. Pick something that you're genuinely passionate about. Go do something interesting about it. Start a movement. These things are always reserved for someone besides ourselves. But why can't we be the ones to change the world? He went on to write a book about the people he met in Greenland. In Eskimo Life, Nansen writes, "For one whole winter, we were cut off from the world and immersed among the Greenlanders. I dwelt in their huts, took part in their hunting, and tried, as well as I could, to live their life and learn their language. But one winter, unfortunately, is far too short a time in which to attain thorough knowledge of so peculiar a people, its civilization and its ways of thought. That would require years of patient study. Amicus Plato, amicus Socrates, magis amica veritas. Plato is my friend, Socrates is my friend, but truth is a greater friend." This is a paraphrase of a sentiment that often is attributed to Aristotle, but it captures one of the deepest principles of philosophy: loyalty to truth over loyalty to people or schools of thought. In this fashion, seeing the destruction of the native people by the Europeans, lamenting the degradation of a people, Nansen writes, "I must unburden my conscience. It seems to me a sacred duty to add my protest to the rest. My pen unhappily is all too feeble. What I feel most deeply I have failed to express. Never have I longed more intensely for a poet's gifts. I know very well that my voice too will be as a cry sent forth over a flat expanse of desert, without even mountains to echo it back. My only hope is to awaken here and there a feeling of sympathy with the Eskimos and of sorrow for their destiny." Nansen writes, "The Eskimo regards it as the highest degree dishonorable to steal from his fellow villager, and it is very seldom that anything of that sort occurs. They let their goods lie open to everyone without fear of anyone stealing. This misdemeanor is so repulsive to them that if a girl is found stealing, she loses all chance of making a good marriage. In describing a thing to another person, they are very careful not to paint it in brighter colors than it deserves, especially in the sale of an object which the buyer has not seen. Even though the seller may be anxious to get rid of it, he will depreciate it rather than overpraise it." How different is this from the modern world? Think about all these slimy business tactics that people use to try to pull a rug over on another person's eyes. And this is just so counter to the Eskimos people. Nansen wrote a whole book about it. I thought it would be worthwhile to take 30 seconds and describe the Eskimos as a people. You probably have never thought about the Eskimos, their philosophy. This was them. They were a good people, and now they're gone. So there you go. Okay, so at this point, Nansen has become famous in Norway for being a crazy, smart, adventuring badass. Following the 1888 Greenland expedition, Nansen developed a novel strategy for approaching the North Pole. Rejecting prior methods of forcing ships through ice packs, Nansen conceived an expedition to exploit this drift. A specially built vessel would enter the ice pack off Siberia, become entrapped, and passively ride the current northward, withstanding years of compression by rising over ice formations rather than resisting them. Do you see how he combines his scientific ability and his adventurous mindset? This idea of combining opposites is so often attributed to truly big leaps in human progress. Think of Steve Jobs. probably the most cited example ever of combining technology and liberal arts, or arts in general. This is something that I'm pulling from Nansen. He's combining science with a genuine full spirit of adventure. The Fram, their newly designed ship, successfully froze into the ice in September of 1893. By March of 1895, it had become clear to Nansen that the ship would not drift over the North Pole as he had hoped. With his shipmate Johansen, Nansen would make an attempt to reach the North Pole using skis and dog sleds. Just mind you, they've been on the boat for 2 years at this point. They departed from the Fram, their ship, at 84 degrees north with 28 dogs, sledges, skis, and kayaks, aiming to sledge the remaining distance to the pole. They advanced northward, attaining a record northern latitude of 86 degrees north on April 7, 1895, but deteriorating ice conditions and exhausted dogs prompted abandonment of the attempt after 2 weeks of stalled progress. The pair retreated southward, enduring 15 months of travel, including a harsh winter in a stone and snow hut on Frederick Jackson Island, where they subsisted on bear and walrus meat after killing their remaining dogs. So no, Nansen did not ever make it to the North Pole, but he became closer than anyone else in his time or before him to do so during this 1893 to 1896 expedition. I mean, this dude is out there risking his life. He ended up having to eat the dogs he brought just to try to push himself closer to making this goal a reality. It's like, what are you sacrificing? He's sacrificing everything. The crew was received by King Oscar upon their return, and Nansen, reunited with his family, remained at the palace for several days as special guests. As one of his country's leading citizens in 1905, Nansen spoke out for ending Norway's union with Sweden, and was instrumental in persuading Prince Karl of Denmark to accept the throne of the newly appointed independent Norway. Between 1906 and 1908, he served as the Norwegian representative in London. I mean, this guy, after coming back from the freaking North Pole, helps establish Norway as a independent country. How freaking cool is that? Also, I just thought this was a cool point. Nansen declines offers to enter formal politics, preferring to influence policy through public advocacy rather than office. So after he comes back from the North Pole, this ridiculous expedition that he's just gone on, after discovering new scientific theories of neurons, new theories of continental ocean drift, I didn't even tell you about something that he created called the Nansen bottle, which is just, I can't even begin to get into it. He becomes leading Norway's independence, and now, if that wasn't enough, he goes on to become this unbelievable humanitarian. He goes and speaks out against the Russian system in 1920, a very important time to do so. The Gulag Archipelago was much more brutal than you probably realize. Read The Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. If you ever read anything in your life, read that. You will realize that everything you ever complain about is complete fucking garbage. 60 million people died. Stalin is a fucking evil bastard. One aspect I thought was super interesting about this, he has a preference for executive action amid institutional inertia. This kind of reminds me of Elon Musk. He comes in, I know everyone hates Elon nowadays, but he comes into the government, he says this is a bloated, slow machine. Let's put technology in the machine. Let's do entrepreneurship on the thing. Let's move quickly. Let's break things. Let's do things. And I know that can't work always, but it's the same idea. Two very important people of two very different times and places sharing similar principles. With the help of the League of Nations, Nansen was partially responsible for preventing an additional 7 million deaths, particularly among children. His famine work, intertwined with refugee repatriation, underscored the causal links between political upheaval and humanitarian crises, finally becoming recognized in 1922 with the Nobel Peace Prize for transcending ideological divides to prioritize empirical relief. From 1925 onwards, Nansen devoted much of his time trying to help Armenian refugees, victims of the Armenian genocide at the hands of the Ottoman Empire during the First World War. Clearly a remarkable human being. Nansen was married and also had 5 kids. Well, we begin to see that a truly different life often comes with some major sacrifices. You hurt people when you are obsessed with living a certain type of life. This is something David Sederer talks a lot about, is that when you're fully dedicated to one thing, you kind of leave behind everything else. Family relations were strained by his frequent absences for scientific and exploratory work, compounded by his admitted infidelities. So maybe he's not completely clean and admirable. His first wife's death from pneumonia in 1907 left Nansen a widower at age 46, tasked with raising the remaining 4 children amid his burgeoning diplomatic commitments. Nansen remarried with a lifelong acquaintance with whom he had conducted an affair with as early as 1905. The union produced no additional children, but integrated his new wife into a household marked by tensions, as Nansen's children from his first marriages reportedly resented her presence. I mean, this is just kind of brutal to hear. Like, I've spent the last 30 minutes or however long it's been so greatly admiring this person, a person that's been able to combine the scientific intellect with a true soul for adventure, with the heart for humanitarian relief, and yet in his own life, he's hurt a lot of people. You know, his wife and his kids endured long periods of isolation at their estate, while Nansen pursued international humanitarian missions, contributing to an unhappy dynamic in the later years of his life. So, I've just been thinking about this recently. You can't have it all. I don't think you can have it all. Maybe you can, but it's really difficult. I do not know if you can have it all. You can't dedicate 100% of your time to one area and expect other areas to still blossom. You need to dedicate time as well as money to the areas in your life that you want to have grow and flourish. So he dedicates the beginning half of his life to personal study and expeditions, and in the second half of his life, kind of more towards humanitarian causes and, doing work for others. It's a strong balance of idealism and practical action, and really an awe-inspiring sense of adventure. One of the quotes from him that I really liked was, "The first great thing is to find yourself, and for that you need solitude and contemplation, at least sometimes. I can tell you deliverance will not come from the rushing, noisy centers of civilization. It will come from the lonely places." This idea of self-development as being a lonely endeavor is, and shit, I think it's true. How can you really figure out what's going on in your mind, what matters to you, what you believe about the world, if you're being bombarded by all sorts of sensory input 24 hours a day? You need to take time to be alone, to reflect, to read, to set your values in order to figure out what kind of life you want to live. Nansen seems to have agreed with this. He seems to have spent a lot of time kind of doing things for himself. I mean, who would cross Greenland, would go up to the northernmost point of the world if it wasn't to do something to yourself, to prove something? The actions are evident that he had something inside of him that needed to be expressed. People do that through music, through art, through business, through building technology, through writing code. But Nansen did that through adventuring, partially through adventuring. And I think that sense of adventure and there not being any limits on yourself is a huge piece of the story. Not putting any limits on what you can achieve is absolutely fundamental. To think that you can go to the North Pole in 1888, to think that you can cross Greenland on skis, to think that you can invent new theories across multiple domains of science, to think that you can prevent millions upon millions of children from dying of starvation as one individual, that's admirable. That's truly admirable. And I hope to instill a sense of self-belief in myself and with everyone that is listening. If everyone had this sense of earnest self-belief, with this sense of earnest goodwill, I want to take action on the world. I want to make the world a better place. Imagine if there were tens of thousands of Nansens working all right now. There are, but some people are limited. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take away from this character. This really unique, interesting person through history. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was Max Depth. It's a new type of video. I'm oscillating between different types of videos. We're still trying to figure out what really works, what resonates with people. Again, I kind of am being inspired by David Senra's Founders podcast right now. Maybe that'll change in the future, but I just want to say thank you so much for listening. I had an absolute joy researching, reading, rehearsing, and performing this short story about Fridtjof Nansen, if that is how you even say his name. I hope to bring more great stories to you in the future. And with that, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your life. If this is the only video you ever watch of mine, I'm so glad to have had you with us.